With the death penalty debate in Taiwan, it often feels like we're just stuck in this endless loop. On one side, you've got overwhelming public opinion, and on the other, these huge questions about justice and human rights. But what if we try to step outside that loop for a minute? Instead of just arguing about laws, what if we try to see it through the eyes of the people actually living it? So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to use a unique human lens to try and find a little more clarity. All right, to get a handle on this conversation in Taiwan, you have to start right here with this number. Nearly 80% of the public does not want to abolish the death penalty. And look, that's not just a statistic on a slide, right? It's a massive political reality. It shapes the entire conversation and puts this incredible pressure on anyone even thinking about reform. This is the world this whole debate lives in. So here's the thing. This is the tightrope that Taiwan is walking. On one hand, you've got the immense weight of that public opinion we just saw. But on the other hand, you have international human rights standards. And, of course, the one risk you can never, ever take back, the possibility of executing an innocent person. It's an incredibly high-stakes balancing act with no safety net. So how do we even begin to untangle all of this? Well, we're going to try a different angle today. We're going to use the lens of a book called 7 Days to Live. Now, this isn't some dense legal textbook, okay? It's an intimate, human look at the final week of a death row inmate's life. The idea is to use the stories in this book to maybe shed some new light on what's happening right here in Taiwan. Okay, so the first big idea the book throws at us is this concept of social death. And this quote, it just hits you, doesn't it? This isn't just about being locked in a cell. It's about being completely erased from the human world. The deepest longing here isn't for freedom. It's for a simple handshake, a hug, the basic, everyday connections that we all take for granted. And then the book flips the script and forces us to look at the other side of this tragedy, the victim's family. It makes this absolutely crucial point that an execution doesn't just magically end their pain. That line, "a constant in her life," is so powerful. This really challenges one of the biggest arguments you hear for capital punishment, right? The idea that it provides closure. For the families left behind, a legal ending often doesn't mean a psychological one. And the third big theme is this ideal of a perfect, undeniable justice system. The book paints a picture of a system that really believes science can deliver absolute certainty. It's like a giant puzzle, and the idea is that you have to find every single tiny piece, and it has to fit perfectly. It sets an incredibly high bar for evidence, which, of course, it has to when a life is on the line. Okay, so we've got these three big ideas from the book: the human experience of the inmate, the unending trauma for victims, and the ideal of perfect evidence. Now for the interesting part. Let's hold these ideas up like a mirror to the actual situation in Taiwan's justice system and see what we find. And wow, this table really lays it all out, doesn't it? You can see the clash right away. The book's clear countdown becomes an endless, long wait in Taiwan. The victim's constant grief points to a need for something more than just punishment. And that ideal of crucial evidence runs headfirst into the very real danger of pseudoscience. Okay, let's break each of these down. First up, let's talk about time. In the book, that 7-day countdown creates this incredibly intense but finite period of time. There's an end. But in Taiwan, it's the exact opposite. They call it the long wait, and it's completely indefinite. There is no end in sight. And that uncertainty, that not knowing, it becomes its own unique and psychologically brutal form of punishment. The result of this is, honestly, it's pretty startling. Research from Taiwan shows something totally counterintuitive. After spending years and years in this limbo, many inmates, they stop being afraid of death. In fact, they actually start to wish for it. They see execution as the only possible escape from the mental torment of endless waiting. Just think about that. The waiting itself becomes a punishment worse than death. Now let's shift gears to the evidence. Remember that ideal of perfect, irrefutable science we talked about? Well, that ideal just completely shatters when you look at the harsh reality of some cases in Taiwan. We've seen major wrongful convictions here that have been linked to something deeply unsettling: the use of so-called pseudoscience, forensic techniques that sound official but have no real scientific backing. So how on earth does this happen? Well, it really comes down to two deep structural problems in the system. First, you have professional errors happening inside the forensic agencies themselves. The tragic case of Jiang Woking is a prime example. But second, and this is just as critical, you often have a lack of scientific expertise among judges and prosecutors. They may not be equipped to challenge or even understand a complex forensic report, which was a huge factor in the Zhu Siqiang case.
So when you start to see all of these deep challenges, the psychological toll, the risk of irreversible error, it makes you wonder, maybe the debate we're all having, this simple for or against argument, is missing the point. Perhaps the real question is much bigger. How do we shift our entire focus away from just punishment and toward prevention and healing instead?
And this is where a concept called restorative justice comes in. It's a totally different way of thinking. Instead of just asking, what punishment does this person deserve? It asks, what harm has been done, and how can we begin to repair it? It gives victims a real voice, and it focuses on a kind of healing that retribution alone just can't provide. It directly addresses that constant grief we were talking about earlier.
So what could a path forward actually look like? Well, you could imagine a three-step approach. First, deep, urgent forensic reform. You have to guarantee the science is solid. Period. Second, make restorative justice a core part of the system, not just some alternative, to truly empower victims. And finally, step 3 is to look beyond the courtroom entirely and start addressing the social roots of crime by making our communities and families stronger.
And all of this leaves us with one final crucial question to think about. If our ultimate goal, everyone's goal, is a truly safe and just society, is it possible that our intense focus on this one single punishment is actually distracting us from the much harder, more important work we need to do to get there? Maybe the most important conversation isn't about how we punish, but about how we build a society that prevents harm from happening in the first place.